Alright guys, it's a very warm 20 degrees here in wonderful Minnesota, and I'm going to show you how to replace the alternator on the Ford Focus with the 2-liter SPI engine. This may or may not apply to all vehicles with the SPI engine, although I'm not entirely sure. This is specifically going to focus on the Focus. So first thing we're going to do is disconnect the negative battery cable. Now this battery is already dead because it's been sitting, but when I went to go start the car and run it, it died after I took the jumper cables off. So, but even though this battery should be dead, I was going to do this as a precaution so I don't shock the hell out of myself. Okay, so that's taken care of. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these two nuts off right here. We're going to move this pipe out of the way. This pipe is for the power steering. So you got this nut here and this nut here. Now just beware, these nuts might come off with the studs, so just beware of that. Yeah, this car's 20 years old, it's rusty, stuff like this is gonna happen. Just keep that in mind. Alright, and the next thing, once you get this guy loose, which by the way both studs came on instead of just the nuts, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off the other nuts or studs, depending on what happens to come off of this heat shield, so we can pull this heat shield off. And what that'll do is it'll give us a little bit more clearance and also prevent us from getting some sliced hands when we're trying to pull that alternator out. By the way, if you've never had the pleasure of using tools in the middle of winter outside with no gloves, then you don't know what you're missing out on. It's a fun experience. Very pleasant experience using cold tools with no gloves. Huh, look at this one. This guy's a little bit bent. Which means that someone at some point tried taking this exhaust shield off and tried forcing the nut off. Now I'm sure this goes without saying, but anytime you're going to be touching the exhaust or the engine, make sure you let the car cool off first. Otherwise, you're going to get some really nasty burns. I'm sure that's common sense, but I feel like it needs to be said anyways, because there's always that one idiot out there who's like, I didn't know. Okay, so now we should be able to pull this heat shield off. Okay, set that aside. Now, one thing I'm going to do that isn't necessarily required, but I'm going to do anyways, I'm going to take this the oxygen sensor out. That way I have even more room. So, also in case you're wondering, the negative terminal on the battery as well as the nuts holding the exhaust shield are 10mm. And I'm not sure what size wrench this is. I think it's 17. Well, let's find out. By the way, this is a tool chest that my father got me for my birthday a couple years ago. Shout out to you, old man. You're the real OG. Okay, let's see. I got 17 here. Nope, too small. Try 18. Still too small. Let's try 3/4 inch, which, for those of you who are wondering, 3/4 inch is basically about a 19. Still too small. Okay, let's go to a 7/8, which is about 21-ish. Okay, so oxygen sensor is about 7/8 of an inch. It's a little loose, but I think I can make it work. so oxygen sensor's out. You're gonna have a little crush gasket here. Make sure that doesn't fall off. You're gonna need that when you go to put it back in. Alright, so update. Turns out I don't have an actual serpentine belt tool to move the pulley so I can take the belt off, so I'm gonna have to run to O'Reilly's. Alright, so I got my serpentine belt tool, and whoever designed this type of packaging, you deserve a special place in hell, because these are a pain in the ass. Well, this just happened. Alright guys, it is now a super balmy 43 degrees out here in Minnesota. Today it's a new day, we're gonna finish tackling this Ford Focus. I got my wrench on here, I'm taking the coolant bottle off because I am going to take these bottom mortar mount bolts out. What that'll allow me to do is jack the engine up, which will give me better access, if I can zoom in here, to that guy right there. So I just got my socket on this 10mm bolt here. I'm gonna take this guy out. Try not to lose all your tools in the process. Alright, now that's out. And then now you just got this little tab right here. Push on that tab. This guy should come right out. Well, as it turns out, you ain't gotta actually press on that tab, you just gotta get this bottle a good old yank. Okay, so now, so the only reason why you need to move this coolant bottle so you can get to this bolt here. This is one of 3 bolts. You got one there, and then you got one in front right here. So, and I believe those are 15. Yep, they're 15. Alrighty, all 3 bolts are out. Now, let's jack this sucker up. Okay, the whole car is lifting. Not quite sure why. Probably just because I'm taking the weight off. Let's see, how are we doing here? Well, it doesn't seem like things are going according to plan. Again. Alright, engine mount is now completely out. So hopefully I'll now have at least some room to maneuver a ratchet in there. Alright, belt is finally off. I actually had to take the nuts off of the transmission mount and the front bolt out of the torque strut mount so I could actually lift this thing up enough to where I could get a socket on there. So now what you gotta do is you gotta take off that starter cable right there as well as that electrical connector right there. It's a windy one today, fellas. Anyways, I got those connectors out. I put that 10mm nut back onto where the battery cable is. Now all that's left is you got 3 bolts that actually hold the alternator to the bracket. You got one here, you got one over here, and then you got one on the bottom. And I believe they are 15, let's see. Nope, smaller than that. Looks like it is a 13. Oh, there's the mail guy. Or not the mail guy, the garbage guy. Alright, so here's something I was not expecting. So, this bottom nut is actually a 15, but whole stud came out with it. So, yeah. So now I'm going to have to be even more careful when taking this alternator out. It's going to be a pain in the rear. Because now I gotta untighten that last bolt with one hand while holding the alternator with the other. Joys of working on cars. Alrighty folks, we finally got her out. One thing I forgot to mention is you have a little wire loom Christmas tree pin thing. You gotta make sure you take the wire harness out of that. But yeah, she is out, boys. Now it's time to put the new one in. Don't mind the mess, but anytime you're doing a part, especially when you have as many obstacles and taking as much time as what I've been having to do, you want to make sure you double check that everything looks exactly the same. You got bolt holes. You got your battery cable studs, electrical connectors. So everything looks good. So basically, installation is the same. It's the opposite of how you took it apart. Just keep in mind where all the bolts go. There are torque specs, but I'm not going to worry about it, mainly because I don't know where my torque wrench is. I lost it somehow. So I'm just going to get it as tight as I can and just hope for the best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.